The sandstorm had not yet passed when the helicopter descended onto the barren ridge. The world outside was chaos. Wind howled, grit stung against metal, and the smell of burning fuel carried through the air like a cruel whisper of what had just happened. Inside the extraction zone, a team of Navy SEALs moved swiftly, their boots sinking into dust, eyes sharp, weapons raised. But amid the roar of engines and the blur of movement, one small figure caught everyone's attention. A woman kneeling, silent and bleeding, her uniform torn and streaked with smoke. The medic, Chief Petty Officer Lucas Ward, dropped to his knees beside her without a second thought. He had patched countless soldiers before, from gunshot wounds to blast injuries. But there was something haunting about this one. Her lips were pale, her breathing shallow, and her eyes, calm but distant, seemed to be fading into another world. His hands worked automatically, pressing against the wound, checking her pulse, shouting for the medevac stretcher, and then he saw it. On her right sleeve, half hidden under ash and blood, was an emblem, faded but unmistakable. A silver wing intertwined with a dagger, the insignia of Task Force Valkyrie. He froze. His chest tightened as his mind reeled backward through the years. Task Force Valkyrie wasn't just any unit. It was the legendary all-female Special Operations Group that had been wiped out 3 years ago during a classified mission gone wrong. The files were sealed, the names erased, the few survivors never spoken of again. He had read their story once, an operation so brutal that even the SEALs refused to discuss it. Yet here she was. Her name patch was barely visible, scorched around the edges, but he could make out the first few letters, C.H. He didn't need to see the rest. He already knew. Captain Claire Hunt, the medic of Valkyrie, the one who had reportedly stayed behind to treat her team while air support failed to arrive. Officially listed as killed in action. Lucas swallowed hard, his hands trembling for the first time in years. The desert noise faded. For a moment all he could hear was her shallow breathing and the thump of his own heart. Memories came flooding back. The training videos where her unit's precision was unmatched. The whispered respect in the field hospitals. The quiet legends told by soldiers who believed she was the bravest medic who ever lived. Now, the legend lay broken in front of him. He pressed gauze against her side, fighting to keep her alive as the storm raged around them. The helicopter crew shouted that they had to move, but Lucas couldn't take his eyes off that emblem. It wasn't just fabric, and it was history, sacrifice and pain stitched into a single patch. She had carried it into death, and somehow come back. Hours later in the field hospital, Claire's condition stabilized, though she remained unconscious. The surgeon said she was lucky to be alive. Lucas didn't believe in luck. He believed in willpower, and hers was unbreakable. When she finally opened her eyes, the first thing she did wasn't to ask where she was. She asked if her team had made it out. That was the kind of person she was, the kind who bled silently, always thinking of others first. Over the following days, Lucas learned the truth that official reports had buried. The mission 3 years ago had gone south after an intelligence leak. Outnumbered and surrounded, her team fought to the end, refusing to surrender. Claire had stayed behind, patching up the wounded, covering their retreat until the evac bird was hit. She was thrown by the blast, rescued later by a local unit that found her barely alive in the wreckage. When she recovered, she didn't return to active combat. She vanished, no name, no rank, working under humanitarian units in war-torn zones, saving lives quietly, away from the noise of recognition. And now fate had brought her back into the war she had tried to leave behind. Lucas couldn't help but admire her strength. She moved slowly but deliberately, never complaining about the pain, never showing weakness. Her silence wasn't emptiness, it was armor. In the weeks that followed, she began helping in the field hospital again, tending to soldiers with steady hands despite the scars on her own. The younger medics whispered about her, the mysterious woman who survived the unspeakable and still chose to serve. But one night, while Lucas was checking supply inventory, he found her sitting alone under the dim lights, staring at that torn sleeve patch she had saved. The silver wing, cracked and burned, lay in her palm. She whispered something almost to herself, a name, maybe a promise, before tucking it back into her pocket. He realized then that she wasn't haunted by what she'd lost. She was anchored by it. Every wound she carried was a reminder of the ones she couldn't save. Months later, When another rescue operation went wrong and casualties began flooding in, Claire was there again, silent, focused, fearless. She didn't hesitate to run into the smoke when the med tent was hit. Lucas followed, shouting for her to stay back, but she didn't stop. She reached a downed Marine, shielding him from falling debris until the rest of the team pulled them both out. Her body bore new burns, new bruises, but she smiled faintly as she checked the Marine's pulse and said only 2 words, "He's breathing." It was in that moment that Lucas finally understood what kind of strength truly defines a hero. Not the medals, not the stories, but the choice to keep going again and again, even when the soul is tired and the body is broken. The next morning, as the medevac lifted off, Lucas placed her patched-up sleeve emblem back on her uniform. She had tried to remove it once, tried to forget, but he told her softly that legends don't fade because they're gone. They live because they're remembered. When the dawn broke over the desert, she stood beside him watching the horizon, the wind tugging at her bandaged arm. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. Her silence spoke louder than words might, a vow to keep serving, to keep healing, to keep remembering. That night, Lucas wrote in his field journal something he would never forget. Some warriors fight with rifles, others fight with bandages and mercy, and some like her carry the weight of both, silent, bleeding, but unbroken. Because heroes aren't always the ones who shout their victories. Sometimes they're the ones who whisper their pain and keep saving lives anyway. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share, so the world never forgets the silent heroes who serve beyond recognition. Special request, comment below. For those who still heal in silence, to honor every medic who carries unseen scars but never stops saving others.